Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
The trait of resolutely controlling your own behavior. The act of having and controlling property. A mania restricted to one thing or idea. Anything owned or possessed. A territory that is controlled by a ruling state. Being controlled by passion or the supernatural. Sport. The act of controlling the ball, or puck. They took possession of the ball on their own goal line. The trait of resolutely controlling your own behavior. The trait of resolutely controlling your own behavior. The act of denying yourself, controlling your impulses. The trait of resolutely controlling your own behavior. Resolute adherence to your own ideas or desires. The trait of resolutely controlling your own behavior. The trait of resolutely controlling your own behavior. The trait of resolutely controlling your own behavior. The act of having and controlling property. The relation of an owner to the thing possessed. Possession with the right to transfer possession to others. The state or fact of being an owner. A mania restricted to one thing or idea. The trait of being resolute. Find the solution. Reach a decision. He resolved never to drink again. Bring to an end. Settle conclusively. Reach a conclusion after a discussion or deliberation. The trait of being resolute. A formal expression by a meeting. Agreed to by a vote. Cause to go into a solution. Understand the meaning of. Make clearly visible. Can this image be resolved? The trait of being resolute. His resoluteness carried him through the battle. The trait of being resolute. It was his unshakable resolution to finish the work. Analysis into clear-cut components. A formal expression by a meeting. Agreed to by a vote. A statement that solves a problem or explains how to solve the problem. Finding a solution to a problem. The ability of a microscope or telescope to measure the angular separation of images that are close together. Something settled or resolved. The outcome of decision-making. They never did achieve a final resolution of their differences. A decision to do something or to behave in a certain manner. He always wrote down his New Year's resolutions. Computer science. The number of pixels per square inch on a computer-generated display. The greater the resolution, the better the picture. Music. A dissonant chord is followed by a consonant chord. The subsidence of swelling or other signs of inflammation, especially in a lung. The muscle tone of healthy tissue. His muscular firmness. The trait of being resolute. The quality of being steady or securely and immovably fixed in place. The property of being unyielding to the touch. Handle and cause to function. Control the lever. Exercise authoritative control or power over. Control the budget. Lessen the intensity of. Temper. Hold in restraint. Hold or keep within limits. Control your anger. A standard against which other conditions can be compared in a scientific experiment. The control condition was inappropriate for the conclusions he wished to draw. Place under restrictions. Limit access to by law. This substance is controlled. Discipline in personal and social activities. She never lost control of herself. Be careful or certain to do something. Make certain of something. Control the quality of the product. Maintain influence over others or oneself, skillfully, usually to one's advantage. She is a very controlling mother and doesn't let her children grow up. The state that exists when one person or group has power over another. Check or regulate a scientific experiment by conducting a parallel experiment or comparing with another standard. Are you controlling for the temperature? Great skillfulness and knowledge of some subject or activity. A mechanism that controls the operation of a machine. The speed controller on his turntable was not working properly. Have a firm understanding or knowledge of, be on top of. Do you control these data? A relation of constraint of one entity, thing or person or group, by another. Measures for the control of disease. A spiritual agency that is assumed to assist the medium during a séance. Physiology, regulation or maintenance of a function or action or reflex, etc. The timing and control of his movements were unimpaired. Power to direct or determine. Under control. The activity of managing or exerting control over something. The control of the mob by the police was admirable. The economic policy of controlling or limiting or curbing prices or wages, etc. They wanted to repeal all the legislation that imposed economic controls. Verify by using a duplicate register for comparison. Control an account. A mood disorder. An affective disorder in which the victim tends to respond excessively and sometimes violently. An irrational but irresistible motive for a belief or action. An irrational but irresistible motive for a belief or action. Any object of warm affection or devotion. He has a passion for cockfighting. A strong feeling or emotion. Something that is desired intensely. The suffering of Jesus at the crucifixion. The trait of being intensely emotional. An irrational but irresistible motive for a belief or action. A feeling of strong sexual desire. Law. The principle that an act done at a later time is deemed by law to have occurred at an earlier time. His attorney argued for the relation back of the amended complaint to the time the initial complaint was filed. Sexual activity between individuals, especially the insertion of a man's penis into a woman's vagina until orgasm and ejaculation occur. A person related by blood or marriage. He has distant relations back in New Jersey. An act of narration. He was the hero according to his own relation. An abstraction belonging to or characteristic of two entities or parts together. Usually plural, mutual dealings or connections among persons or groups. International relations. A region marked off for administrative or other purposes. The geographical area under the jurisdiction of a sovereign state. An area of knowledge or interest. His questions covered a lot of territory. A region marked off for administrative or other purposes. Regulate housing in of certain areas of towns. A region marked off for administrative or other purposes. A region marked off for administrative or other purposes. Dominance or power through legal authority. France held undisputed dominion over vast areas of Africa. One of the self-governing nations in the British Commonwealth. A psychological state induced by, or as if induced by, a magical incantation. Attract. Cause to be enamored. A state of mind in which consciousness is fragile and voluntary action is poor or missing. A state resembling deep sleep. A magical spell. A psychological state induced by, or as if induced by, a magical incantation. A feeling of great liking for something wonderful and unusual. Indicate or signify. I'm afraid this spells trouble. A verbal formula believed to have magical force. He whispered a spell as he moved his hands. Write or name the letters that comprise the conventionally accepted form of a word or part of a word. He spelled the word wrong in this letter. A psychological state induced by, or as if induced by, a magical incantation. A time period for working, after which you will be relieved by someone else. A spell of work. A period of indeterminate length, usually short, marked by some action or condition. A spell of good weather. Orally recite the letters of or give the spelling of. How do you spell this word? Place under a spell. Relieve someone from work by taking a turn. She spelled her husband at the wheel. Take turns working. The workers spell every 4 hours. Self-control in a crisis. Ability to say or do the right thing in an emergency. An uneasy psychological state. He suffered an attack of nerves. Control of your emotions. This kind of tension is not good for my nerves. The responsibility of a guardian or keeper. He left his car in my keeping. The act of retaining something. Conformity or harmony. His behavior was not in keeping with the occasion. Law. Possession for which criminal sanctions are provided because the property may not lawfully be possessed or may not be possessed under certain circumstances. Law. Immediate and direct physical control over property.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.